Next witness.
One moment, Your Honor. Judge, we would call Mr. Ronald Davis.
All right, Mr. Ronald Davis. He's here in the courtroom. Mr. Davis, if you'll come on up to the front for me, please. And if you raise your right hand, the clerk will administer the oath.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Davis, if you'll come right around this way for me, please, sir. Make yourself comfortable. You can adjust that microphone as best you need, and be sure and speak up loudly so everybody can hear you, all right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Stroller?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Davis, how are you, sir?
Fine.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
I'm Ronald Davis,
And I'm sorry.
D-A-V-I-S.
Yes, sir. And you are the father of Jordan Davis?
Yes, I am.
Okay. After the night of November 23rd, do you recall some of the boys involved in this coming over to your house a couple of days later?
I remember they came over to my house a few days later.
Okay. And do you recall it being about 3 days when Tevin Thompson and Tommy Storms came over 3 days after this happened?
I don't know how many days it was, but I know it was soon after.
Okay. Would it refresh your, let me ask you this. Do you recall giving a deposition in this case?
Yes, I do.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at it?
No, I think I said at the time that I was shocked that my son was killed.
Okay. Let me ask you this, sir, and I'll refer to page 21, 24 through 25, and then page 20, Your Honor, 1 through 6. Do you recall me asking you?
Hang on, Mr. Stroller. I'm trying to see if I can find it.
Oh, I'm sorry, Judge. I apologize.
I'm not sure that I have it.
Judge, I can approach with my only copy if I can get it.
Well, that won't help you, because you need it. I just don't have that on my computer. Does anybody have a copy that I could use? Sure. Not sure where we left off. Why don't you just start over again?
You got it, Judge. And Mr. Davis, I apologize for this, but isn't it true that the three boys came over a couple days later and talked to you about the facts that night?
No, they came over to the house and they talked to me about that they were sorry, and those facts is what they talked about. They didn't talk about the facts surrounding his death. They talked about how sorry they were that my son was killed, was shot and killed, is what they said to me.
Mr. Davis, again, do you recall taking a deposition?
Yes, I do.
On November 21st, 2013?
I'm not sure of the date, but I remember taking a deposition with you.
Okay. And you recall taking an oath to tell the truth like you did today?
Absolutely.
Okay. And do you recall, again on page 20, Judge, lines 13 through...
Objection, Your Honor. I've asked Mr. Davis a chance to review it.
Now we're doing a proper impeachment. He's trying to impeach him based on the answer he just gave. It's overruled.
And that's page 20, lines 13 through 18. Mr. Davis, do you recall giving the answer, they were trying to tell me, but what they were trying to say, I think they were all in shock because what one was saying, the other was saying...
Grounds.
I believe it's going outside the scope of what he's impeaching Mr. Davis on. Next line is.
Well, that's why I sure would like to have a copy of the deposition before we do these things. And I understand the situation, so, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take 5 minutes. I need you to step in the jury room, and I'll get a copy of this deposition. We'll be right back.
Jurors entering the courtroom.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your indulgence. You can have a seat, Mr. Stroller.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Davis, do you recall me asking you the question? Okay, and obviously they were telling you what had happened that night. And do you recall your answer being, they were trying to tell me, but what they were trying to say, I think they were all in shock because what one was saying, the other was saying something a little bit different than the other one. So, and I really, they were trying to explain to me, but I wasn't hearing them. Do you recall that question and answer?
Well, you said it, and I think, from what you just read to me, it meant something different to you than it meant to me. And to me meant condolences. When I first came in to have the deposition with you, you shook my hand and you asked me, like you always ask people, how do you feel? And I said that I was devastated and that I was still devastated. And you,
Mr. Davis.
I'm going to tell you what I remember.
We need to have you just be responsive to the question, so.
Do you remember that answer, sir? Yes or no?
Mr. Stroll, I think, all right,
Yes.
Go ahead.
I remember the word, you said it, and when you said it, in my thinking, in my state of mind, I was thinking of the boys came to console me. And when I said that it wasn't making any sense because I was devastated, and that I didn't say that they didn't make any sense, I didn't make any sense of it because I was devastated. That's what the word it meant to me.
Ms. Wolfson?
Just briefly, Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Davis, on that day that Mr. Strollo was just talking about, what was Leland Brunson's demeanor like?
He was crying uncontrollably. He was going back and forth in the house from the living room to Jordan's room. He would sit on the bed for a few minutes, come back to me and just cry and hug me. And he said, "Pop, there's nothing I could have done." And then he went back to the bedroom.
And Mr. Davis, if you just refrain from saying what actually they told you that day. But Mr. Davis, were you able to make out any clear statements from Leland Brunson that day about what had happened?
And the reason why I couldn't is because of my devastation. I couldn't make out. I just knew that the boys were just so sorry that my son was killed, and they were trying to console me.
And Mr. Davis, just briefly too, what was Tevin Thompson's demeanor like when he was over at the house that day talking to you?
He was crying also. He usually has a big smile on his face, and and he was just crying. He was just crying.
And then finally, Mr. Davis, what was Tommy Storns' demeanor like when he was over at the house that day?
I don't recall Tommy coming that same day. For some reason, I just don't recall it. He could have been there, but I don't recall it. But
Okay.
I do recall him later on.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Anything further, Mr. Strollo?
No regard.
May he be excused?
Yes, sir.
Mrs. Wilson? Thank you for Mr. Davis. You can take your seat.